I'd like to call it Policy Committee.
Oh, hold on, I think Lynn said she wasn't ready.
Order.
Mine was so quick, she's not even, she had to get prepared.
Ready? First item on the agenda is approval of the April 25th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have 4 policies for first reading. We have professional staff hiring for review. We have reporting child abuse for deletion, reporting child abuse or neglect to be replace that one, and then a physical restraint notification permission form, which we discussed last month, if I remember correctly. Okay. First item, we have professional staff hiring. This is to review an existing policy. It doesn't look like there are any changes, correct?
Correct.
Any comments? Is there a motion to send it to the full board for comments?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to send GCD to the full board for first reading.
Motion by Karen, second by Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? Shane, did you have your hand up?
I was just reading. Is this the one where because I brought up about the administrator at the administrative level that they would interview with the board? Is that this one?
I believe so. There's nothing here about interviews.
Well, it says all candidates must meet the requirements as established by the superintendent and school board.
Because I think that the board should be a part of the finalists that the superintendent would bring forward at the admin level. I'm not talking about staff or anything. I'm just any principal should come before the board for an interview before the superintendent obviously could recommend that person. But at least it's more so at least we know who's. I think it's important for us as a board to know our administrators in the building.
Mr. Pappas, and you might know this better than I would, but I know when we had Mike Hopkins as our superintendent, we would have, I think our policy was the same, but Mike would let it, so whenever we had, I think it was an admin or hire, that I think when we're talking about interviewing, he also had those people, potential candidates, go to the school, they met the school that they were going to, the school had discussions, the school came to the board meeting when we interviewed them, the board had a conversation with the group, and I think when we're talking about it, I think it's important for the board, but I also think it's important for the school. So if there's a principal, having a core group of people interview with them and then having them come and let us know before the board. I don't remember if it was, I think it was it assistant principals as well, or was it just principals?
Just principals and yeah, I think it was just principals. I don't even think Mike Hopkins had the staff involved that much. I think they visited the school, but I don't think the input from them was.
Well, they would come that night, because I remember there was some that when we would have that discussion, I would be like, oh no, I was reading a different way, but if you're going to support this person and that's who you want. So I don't remember if they were part of the interview, but I believe that there was a discussion either beforehand or afterhand where they came that night that we did, and they let us know what they thought. I thought they stayed with the interview and they just kind of were in the background.
I might have it wrong, but I thought Mike pretty much ran everything in that. He went through all the resumes. He and maybe the assistant superintendent together chose which ones they wanted to interview. Then they went and visited the schools, and then the board may have had some input, maybe an interview with the board, but then he would make the decision. So there was very little staff input, as I recall.
So if I remember correctly, Mike would say, Mr. Hopkins would say, I'm giving you 2 or 3. I'm giving you ones that I could work with. You as a board make the decision on which one you want, and then we would tell him which one to present, and then he would make the motion. He would nominate that person. But he would say, I wouldn't put anybody forward that I didn't think would be good for the job. So there were times he would give us 2 people, because he's like, there weren't 3 candidates that I could say to the board. But he would always let the board have that say, and because he said whoever I put forward could do the job, it would be fine.
I'll get you a second, Shane. I
Okay.
think his
Sorry.
recollection was that ultimately it was his decision.
Correct.
So it wasn't, the board can interview and then make a recommendation to the superintendent. But it was ultimately his choice.
That's what it has here.
And I believe that is by law what has to happen.
Well, so can I just, so by law, he makes the motion to bring them forward. By law, we then either approve or disapprove that motion. So if he, and there was never an argument, after the discussion, Mike always knew what was gonna happen, like we were always in kind of an agreement when we left, so there was never an issue. But if the superintendent were to appoint or make a motion or present somebody that we didn't like and we voted it down, that would just go back to the table and they would have to, so, right, the superintendent like motions or brings it forward to the board then either supports that or doesn't, and then it just goes either way,
That's what
so,
it says here.
yeah.
Right.
But Mike always made sure that there was a night where we got to meet with the candidate to have that discussion, and then we all just kind of had that discussion on what we wanted.
All right, so if you look at the 3rd one down in our administrative, it looks like if we get that, that's how it is. It's available to the school board for its review and applicants or candidates selected for interviews will be included in it. So it looks like, yeah, in our policy, admin have to interview with the school board. But I know what they've done in the past too, administrators, they would interview with staff of the building that they applied to as well. Like they would have like 3 board members of staff in the building, so they have their input as well. And I know talking with Annie, she does plan on doing that. I don't know if that's something we want to put into our policy as well at the administrative level where a committee is formed and they interview with staff from that building. I know they've done it in the past, I know they did it at my kid's school. The administrator that's at my kid's school right now, they did that for that administrator. I think right now it's more of a courtesy thing, but I like the idea because it gives all people involved in all discussion.
I definitely love the idea of including the staff of the building.
100%.
That includes buy-in
Yeah.
and.
So I think even putting it in here somewhere where a committee is formed from the building they applied to.
Do we want?
And the superintendent can form that. I think the superintendent would form that committee from staff of the building.
Do we want to table
So
it?
that's what I was just wondering, if we should probably table this and then bring it up when the new superintendent takes over.
Yeah, so I will make a motion to
So
table.
there's already a motion. You gotta.
I will rescind my motion if Kelly agrees.
Kelly agrees, okay.
Okay, then I will make a motion to table GCD, professional staff hiring, until our new superintendent is able to review it and add input.
Kelly, did you second?
did.
it? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item is to delete policy JHG, reporting child abuse. And you can see it's literally only 1 sentence long, to be replaced,
More than one thing.
which I don't have a hard copy of the new one, but it's a lot longer. So, starting with deleting JHG, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to delete JHG, send it to the full board for first reading.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cormier. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Policy JLF, reporting child abuse or neglect. This is to replace the one you just recommended for deletion. Any discussion on that? I'm going to find it. Don't have it. There it is.
It's like 3 pages long.
This is the updated policy, it's a required policy.
A lot different from that 1 sentence policy. Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
I will make a motion to move JLF to the full board for first reading.
Is there a second? Okay, second by Ms. Allen. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Policy JGGR, physical restraint notification permission form. And I think that was to be deleted from our last meeting.
I think you were looking for the state form that we are now required to use before you wanted to delete one, so you could see what the new form looks like.
This entire packet is the form. Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
So on the form that's being deleted, the parent had to sign off, and then anytime you restrain or, this is restraint. So anytime you physically restrain or seclude a child, the parent's supposed to be notified. Are they notified of this entire packet?
Let's see, the last page is the parent guardian verbal notification.
Okay.
So that is documented.
So I guess my question, can I just follow up?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, should we have this, just this last paper somewhere so that parents can see the form that they have to sign?
Sure.
So can I just explain? So you work in a school, so I'm assuming, but anytime you have a physical restraining or you have to seclude a child or you put your hands on, the parents have to be notified. So if it happens 3 times in one day, they have to be notified 3 times in one day. So this last page is the notification. So I think it'd be smart to just have that somewhere separate so that parents know what the form looks like, so if they're looking at our policy.
Are you suggesting creating like a second entry in our policy book for that last page? Or just keep it included with the form?
How would you, because we have, when
make
we
it
just
like a
replace.
form. We could, so the new policy is JKAA, so we could label it
JKAA.
-R.
-R,
Yeah.
just something, because I think when
Yeah.
you're looking through this, I think it should stand alone, just like the other one did. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just because I think when you're looking at sending the formal, I just want to make sure that they know they only get this,
Yeah.
not the whole packet. Because that would be a pain to fill that out every single time.
All right, so policy for first reading is to delete JGG-R. I think we need a motion to pull it off the table.
So I will make a motion to untable JGG-R, physical restraining notification and permission form.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Would we have to do a first reading for the form? Would make this a,
So
Yeah.
I think we would have to vote to delete JGG-R first, because that's a completely different form.
okay.
So I'll make the motion to delete JGG-R for first reading to the full board for deletion.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And then I would say that we bring this up under JKAA.
Okay.
So you can go start with the other one if you want to.
So we have policies for second reading, EBBA-3 medication policy for deletion. Get to that. Is that,
What page are we on?
Just replace something?
This is, I think there were multiple policies and this one was redundant.
Yeah.
all right. Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
I will make a motion, hold on, I gotta find it again, to bring forward EBBA-3 to the full board for second reading and adoption for deletion.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is JGG, physical restraint of students for deletion. Which will be replaced by a new policy coming up.
So I will make a motion to send to the full board GJJ, physical restraint of students, to the full board for second reading and adoption for deletion.
Just for clarification, is J or GG?
J, what did I say?
GGJ.
JGG, physical restraint of students. It's tired, we're almost at the 4-hour mark.
Okay, motion by Ms. Stokes, second by Ms. Allen. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Policy JKAA, use of restraint and seclusion, and JKAA-R, the form that goes with it. Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
Is there a way that we can add like a link for, not the last page, but just for this, so that they can see that as well? I don't think you need to make it separate, but on the policy, maybe put it at the bottom, so that way we know what the attach, so
Sure.
they can just pull the link up if they want to. Would you be opposed to that, Mr. Pappas?
Nope. Question?
Just one clarifying question. This is the notification form, and you guys voted to delete the permission form. In this policy, is it just stating you don't need a permission form anymore?
Yeah, I
We
don't,
need a permission form. Mr. Pappas, I'm sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to miss it. So, in an emergency situation, from what I understood Ms. Camus said, anybody has the right to restrain, seclude, tackle, do whatever to help. Some child's running in the road, you can grab them. But if a child's harming themselves, or even if you put a child in a seat that they need a buckle, that's a restraint. So the parents would have to sign off on that. So we would need some kind of sign off. I'm assuming
I can find out about that.
yeah, so there would need to be, so the parent would have to sign off. And again, anytime the child is secluded, even if it's a seatbelt, which is really annoying, the parents have to be notified, but the parents have to agree. So if you put a child in a seclusion room, the parents have to agree with that as well. So there does have to be a sign off.
Okay, so that'll be coming. Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
So I will make a motion to move JKAA to the first, for the full board for second reading and adoption,
Second.
along with JKAA-R.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second by Ms. Allen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next one is policy JIC, student conduct for discussion. This is just coming up for kind of a review and another look
I
at.
think this was one that the committee had brought up, and there was a question from the last meeting about request for documentation.
Right.
And if I recall, and I might not be recalling correctly, but I think there was a question around adding language around filing a CHIN's petition added to the policy. In speaking with Lieutenant Gould, we met on Monday, I think. This is Monday, with the incoming superintendent and also Sarah Camus, just to talk through the process of the CHIN's petition and what that looks like at the elementary level and supports that they can offer there. My recommendation would be not to include it in a policy, but rather to work with the administrative team around the process for filing a CHIN. So there's pretty specific things you need to do before you file a CHINs. And my worry would be the language in the policy might not be clear around that, or might be cumbersome. But certainly it's something it's a resource that we're exploring for the elementary.
I believe we also discussed the fact that you were gonna meet with Sarah Camus and other individuals and make sure that whatever we decided with the chins was gonna be something that was mutually beneficial for everybody. So I wouldn't want to add it or even make something else until you guys have come up with a plan.
Right, okay, yeah.
That's what I remember when we talked about it in the special services, because I think we need to make sure when we have the manifestation of a disability or anything like that, I want to make sure that it's clearly defined, and I think that should come before the board first, so that I think we sometimes make policies and then we don't really follow them per se, because we don't really know. So I think when we do this, it's important enough that if we're going to do a CHINS, which is a legal thing to a student, every single building, every single admin, every single board member needs to know exactly what that is going to be moving forward, and then that has to be implemented correctly, because having a policy that we don't follow would not be smart. So I think you haven't had that, I'm assuming, because it was just recently that we had that. So I would say moving forward, the next step would be having a meeting with them and defining that, and then maybe coming forward and having either a different policy, or then we would add that.
Go ahead, Ms. Allen.
I still feel like it should be put out there, whether it's in the handbook, whether it's somewhere. I still feel like the staff should know that the CHINS is a tool or something accessible that can be used.
It is a tool. There are a lot of steps we have to take in the school setting prior to, it depends, but it's absolutely a tool, and we're committed to working with, and particularly our elementary schools right now, we feel like we have a pretty good handle at the middle and high school with the process, but that's a yes.
And maybe families too.
Yep.
Need to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Good, Jim.
Yeah, I can get on board and not being in the policy, but I think across the district as a whole, every elementary school is completely doing different things when it comes to behavior. And I think it's definitely starts with just training. And I don't even know if some administrators know that it's there for a resource for them, because that's pretty much what it is. It's a resource to help getting that student the resources that they need to go through that process. So I really think we need to make sure that across the board, all our administrators are doing the same thing.
Ms. Allen.
I think once you and the other people involved kind of have a good solid plan, it would be great PD for K, I would say through 7, because it was up to age 13, and 7th grade is when they turn 13. So I think that would be really valuable PD for K through 7 to learn more and understand all the things that need to happen.
Yep.
And that this is a resource, and then maybe even offering like community family info nights on that as well.
I also think, kind of what Shane said, I think what we had discussed before, and correct me if I'm wrong, was when we looked at the progressive discipline that shall include in the graduate age appropriate, I think the problem is it's certain things are happening in certain buildings and certain things are not. So I don't know if we can add something to this so that teachers are, and I don't know if it has to be a policy or a procedure, but I think I would be interested in looking at, right? So an age-appropriate disciplinary consequence, restriction from extracurricular activities, that should be happening across the board. Somebody at Chamberlain or somebody at School Street, like if you do this, you lose this, and I think it should be consistent across the board. And I think that's kind of where we're dropping the ball. Same day removal from class or activity, temporary reassignments, and school suspensions. I feel like from what I've heard our chair say is, I think we need more of a structure and a leadership coming from the superintendent and the assistants to say, when this happens, this is the consequence. Yeah. So that way we can look and say, and I get it, there's extra things out there that you have to consider, but I think to say, you know, when you act up this way, or you throw a desk, or you do whatever, not counting a special ed, this is your discipline. If you have a food fight in the cafeteria, you don't get to do any activities, or And I think that's what I think the school would benefit from, so that way, when we have something come before discipline and we look at it and we say, okay, you could have done this, and one teacher says I did, but the other administrator says, well, we didn't do it in our building. I think that doesn't really set the tone, and I think that's where you get into some kind of issues. So I would like to see something like that, so that way we can send it out to all of the staff, and I think elementary, middle, and high school would be a lot different, but I'd like to see that so that we are aware when something happens and a behavior incident happens, minus the special ed or all that stuff or the manifestation, this is what the expectation is from our leadership team.
Do you want to table it for now, or do you want to?
So, I don't know that I think it needs to be an actual policy. I think it could be like a behavior rubric, or I don't know that we want to be that specific in our policy, so I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm looking at Allison like, how would that look? Is that something that we would want to put in there, or is that something that we just want to say, here's what we're presenting, it's not a policy, it's just kind of like a procedure or a rubric that we're putting forward to say that. So I don't know.
I would recommend that.
That's what I was thinking, because then you can change it without changing your policy. Because I think you would want to change it. You're going to make it, and then you're going to realize that we've got to make some changes. But I would like it fixed and then presented to us so that we can see it goes along with us.
That was the thing, I wanted to present it to us once her and Annie get together, put it together, present it to us.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm fine with the way this is, I just think we need more on that subject.
Want to make a motion?
I will, to move it forward, yeah, I will make a motion to move JIC to the full board for second reading and adoption.
Second by Mr. Cormier. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We did JIC, right?
Yep, that was Jay's.
Okay.
How was that one?
And so now we're on JICD.
And that was just the change in the line about notifying special education administrator, I believe. And I had the one typo that we fixed last week, or last month.
Right. You want to make a motion on that?
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So on number 2, where it says any pupil may be expelled from school by the local school board for any act that poses an ongoing threat to the safety of students or school personnel, do we really want to say may, or do we want to say, I mean, if you're threatening the safety of students or school personnel, that constitutes a repeated act under subparagraph 1, or an act of physical or sexual abuse, do we really want to put may? Because I want to make sure that, again, we're being consistent across the board. If you're threatening students or staff, I think you should be.
Shall.
I think it should be shall, because I think, and at that point, it's whether it's 1 day, 3 days, or 10 days.
Well, expulsion is.
Oh, expulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you put shall, that's you do. So that's why if you put shall, it's like,
But I think these are
you're binding
pretty,
They're pretty
they're
graphic.
pretty graphic,
Yeah.
I think, unless the committee doesn't feel like they should be expelled for any. So it's a repeated act under subparagraph 1, any act of physical or sexual assault that would be a felony if committed by an adult, any act of violence pursuant to the law, criminal threatening pursuant to the law, possession of a firearm, a student has been expelled, shall not attend school until the local school board. But I think those are definitely things, especially with the law states, that they should be expelled, not may.
I read that as, right, that that leaves it open to the board. I'm trying to play devil's advocate when you might not,
I would think you could appeal it to the board though, so we could always vote. So if it says they shall be, there is always
that
an
is the
appeal
school board
process.
though. That's the school board. The school board may do this. They may expel a student for any of those things. And so I'm not sure if there was intention behind that being made. This comes from the law as well. I can check that. But
I thought that's what Mr. Downs had said earlier, was that that's the section that I thought you wanted shall.
well, I think you're right. Because I think it would, I just want to make sure we don't handcuff ourselves either.
Well, if you look at number 3, any expulsion that shall be subject to review by the school board that issued the expulsion, so it says we do have the right to review it. And anybody has a right to appeal. you always have the right to appeal it. And that section 2 does not say
So,
it's an expulsion,
I
the
would-
board expels.
I guess
Yes,
I would-
by the local school board. Any pupil may be expelled from the school by the local school board.
So
It's
maybe
given us
just,
the right to.
Yes, yeah.
so what I would do, like you were, maybe table it and have her come back with a law for next month to see if we can put shall, and then open it up to see if that's where the
You
committee
put
wants to go.
shall in there. It says that you can appeal after anyway, so.
Oh,
let's
yes, I
put
can't vote
shall-
on it?
No, I know, but let's put shall in it. And then if you need to appeal after, because I mean, these crimes are pretty heinous, so.
No, yeah.
You automatically expel them, and then if they want to appeal, they can appeal.
But they don't appeal to us, they appeal to the state board.
Correct.
You guys want to put it forward as may, change it to shall, or
I think we should change it.
I would say leave it as, just my opinion, leave it as may, so it doesn't make us have to do something. Like you said, it has, if we do it, they can appeal to the state school board, right? So, but we also don't want to be in a circumstance where it says we have to do this. I'm not saying that any of that is justifiable, but it does tie our hands saying we shall do it. Because no matter what, it's gonna come here, we're gonna talk about it, and then any of this is gonna be the outcome more than likely.
Yeah, I guess I'm more on the board with, I'm back on shall, because they have an opportunity to appeal it. It's just, something needs to give, and at least that, sometimes I guess it's good to be handcuffed to something, and they still have it on, they still have it on.
So I guess my concern is that any of these things could potentially happen, and there's nothing in this policy that says they have to come before the full board. I think if that's the case and we're gonna leave it, any pupil may, I think we need to have it written that if any of these happen right here, they have to come before the full board. I even think it trumps the discipline committee. If any of these things happen, I think it has to come to the full board, and the full board makes that decision to expel or not. This policy doesn't say that. So technically, I believe right now, and Allison, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe if any of this stuff happens, it's still up to the building principal to make the decision whether or not they want to suspend or expel. And I think if any of those happen, this board should be made aware of it, and we should be making that decision because they're breaking the law. So if we don't put that any pupil may, and any pupil that does this is required to come before the school board, and the school board will make that decision.
I have a question about an ongoing threat. So if they do it once, is that an ongoing threat? So if they bring in a gun once,
Well, that's different.
That's one.
Possessing a firearm, so,
It talks about bullying. 1B talks about like bullying. It talks about targeting, posing an ongoing threat to the safety or welfare of another student, possession of a firearm, BB gun, or paintball gun. So it's
well, just in paragraph 2 where it says poses an ongoing threat to the safety of students and personnel, that constitutes A, B, C, D, E.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but possession of a firearm, I think it immediately changes things. I know it does.
But even in any act of violence, I don't know what RSA 651 is, but do all these have to be an ongoing thing, or can it be a one-term, like, for example, if someone makes a threat online, is that an ongoing threat? Does that make sense?
To me, would be more than once.
Yeah.
Right, but it could be considered criminal threatening even if it's only once. So I think that ongoing or repeated piece is for something maybe that's less, it's less significant is the right way to say it, but a pattern of concerning behavior.
Are you saying get rid of ongoing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with that. So it goes to the full board for any act that poses a threat to the safety of students or school personnel that constitutes, and then we get to make that decision.
Because the bullying part is, it says repeated act under paragraph 1B, which is bullying. And that has to be ongoing.
But can we find out if we can also put that it has to come before the board makes that decision on these A, B, C, D, E?
Yes, I'm just pausing because.
No, I know, yeah.
I know we do it and that's our practice, but you're right, I don't see it.
I'd like to have it in
Yeah.
there, just because,
Ms. McGowan?
This is really just for my learning. So you have, like, if you look up the RSA, whatever the RSA says, can we write something different than what the RSA says, or does it have to be the same as the RSA?
It certainly has to be in conformity with it.
Yeah, I think for expulsion, it has to be the RSA says.
So the RSA 193.13, when I looked that up, that whole paragraph we've been talking about is specific to what that RSA is. And that, like, what we have is verbatim what the RSA says.
This says ongoing, sorry.
Go ahead.
This says ongoing.
The reference to RSA 193 is the possessing of a firearm law. A student who has been expelled shall not attend school until reinstated by a local school board. All expulsions shall be made in accordance with RSA 193.13.
So what I would recommend is make the changes that we want, and then Alice can bring it to the lawyers, review it, make sure we're in compliance before.
I agree with that.
Do we want to table it then?
Is that the only change you want, that, and what's the other one,
The shall instead of may.
I like the shall.
I like the shall, but.
I think it said any pupil shall come before the full school board. Do you know what I mean? So they shall come before the full school board, and then we get rid of ongoing.
So if someone commits one of these acts of violence, you want them here?
Yeah. I think this full board should make because technically they would technically go to the discipline committee, but I feel like if you're doing something this atrocious, you should come before the full board. I don't think 3 individuals on this board should make that decision. I think if there's a threat that significant, this full board should be aware of it. I mean, what do you guys think?
No.
I'm fine with it coming to discipline, you too.
I agree.
I'm wondering if, does the child need to be here, or can the case come before us?
I would say probably the case, yeah. I would
Either
say
one.
the child, I think
Yeah.
like the assistant superintendent be able to discipline, she would present it to us.
I think we do have to provide them due process.
Yeah,
so
because
we
then
would-
they'd have to appeal it to the state, so they'd have to be able to be present.
So for each step, and again, I can run these all by the attorney,
Yeah.
but I know for each step, the longer a student is out of school, the more due process they are provided. And so even, that's why the discipline committee for an extended suspension provides them.
Shall we just table it?
Yeah, I think it's best to table it.
So I'll make a motion to table JIC, what was it, student project?
JICD.
JICD, sorry, JICD, make a motion to table that.
I second it.
Okay, motion by Ms. Stokes, second by Ms. Allen. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
I was jumping ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
What you're gonna say?
Next item is a 5-year plan, and I didn't know what.
I was gonna make a motion that we table that until we watch the video in June.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Good, and
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, aye.
Motion passes. There's no public to give public comment. There are 2 others. One on the agenda is the medication commission form. It is on the agenda, but if anyone has any questions on that? This was a new form, right?
Yep.
Looks good.
I think it looks fine. Any
Do you need a
questions
motion?
on that? Do you want a motion to accept this one?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept OTC medication commission form to the full board for a second reading and adoption.
Okay, motion by Ms. Stokes, second by Ms. Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The other agenda item, Mr. Cusmano asked us to review policy KA-1, which is emergency information. This is a 3-sentence policy just about emergency information in the schools and what have you. And I think when you and I talked, Mr. Cusmano, I think we said that we were going to try to bring it before the new superintendent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to put it on everybody's sort of radar that it's out there. We're going to bring it back for discussion.
Yeah, I've had multiple conversations with Alison. I think that term in there, unusual circumstances, is referred to differently. Each administrator thinks something is, so I think, I know her and I have talked multiple where times was look back to training the administrators where unusual circumstance can be very simple. And unfortunately, you got to notify parents when there's an unusual circumstance, so. But yeah, I agree that should be Andy as well when she's present.
So
Yeah.
feel free to take a look at it and offer some suggestions next time we meet.
Actually, I'll throw in one more other.
Sure.
Can I just ask the committees, are you planning to meet in July, just so we can?
Nope. Just letting you know.
I second that.
We usually don't.
We just want to get our calendar straight in.
Yeah.
Let me just be clear.
No.
We have had 4-hour, 5-hour meetings,
I have one
because
more.
in that campus, we have to go past 10
I have
o'clock.
one more.
Seriously?
Well, because it's not on, we had it under first reading, we tabled it, but now it's gone. I know we've been reviewing policies like crazy, but it's the one where we asked Andy to review about board members. So I just want to make sure that gets put back on the agenda so we can get that.
Yeah.
I know we wanted Andy's input.
We also had a question about the board secretary. I did run it by Mr. Grossman as was requested by the policy committee. And this is what Jerry wrote. I apologize for not printing it out and giving it out, but he wrote, board policy BDB establishes the role of secretary as a board officer. The role of a secretary is traditionally one that takes minutes and keeps records. This office would be in conflict with the city charter, which in section 29 states, the superintendent shall serve as the clerk of the school board. The role of a clerk is traditionally one who keeps records and takes minutes. The city charter would thus control in this situation.
But the city charter doesn't control school districts
Absolutely.
in that respect. How you run your operation is different than.
I just read, I was digging into the charter for the school board. It does state
Well,
that.
well, yes and no.
Well,
I mean, do you think the policies we've just adopted have been anywhere near the city?
no, but
Go ahead, Mr.
So I guess my question is, when I look at the secretary, our superintendent doesn't take notes. It's somebody different. So when you look at the charter is, he's the clerk, is that what it's called?
Superintendent shall serve as the clerk.
So I look at the clerk and the secretary as two different things. I guess my question would be, why is the clerk considered the
They
secretary?
say clerk because the city clerk is the one that takes the
Actually,
minutes.
state law has a definition of the clerk, and it spells out the duties of the clerk of a school district, and it is like the note keeping, basically all the taking of the minutes and note taking. I passed that out that night when we first talked about it. Not when we first talked, when I first came back from when I was out.
But they're not doing it.
It was the superintendent or his designee, I think is what the law says, as I recall.
Is that what the
And I
policy
think
says?
it's probably what the policy should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something we can bring up next
Should or
month.
shall.
Mayor shall.
Mayor shall.
I'm going on Wednesday.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nice.